Hey everyone, Chris here from Viral Gorilla, and we are 99 days out from the Rise of Skywalker, so let's get to it. What do we know so far? Well, we know there's Dark Rey, C-3PO with the red eyes, but mainly the story is about Rey's parents and her heritage. Where did she come from? And we'll see what else we can find out along the way. So basically there is a theory going around that Chewbacca will die in this series. So that could be a bit sad for a lot of us, losing Chewbacca. But yeah, it seems like, as they've said, they're sort of killing off all the characters so that they don't have to pay George Lucas royalties. So that's a bit sad in itself. So there's a few articles on that, on Chewbacca dying. So we could see that in episode 9. And there's a story of that dagger that sort of shows Rey her heritage. The dagger is significant because the Sith inscription on it will reveal the location of a wayfinder device that is key to finding out where Palpatine has been hiding all these years. Touching the wayfinder device will give Ridley's character vision of what is now being called Dark Rey, as seen in Star Wars Episode 9 that was released at Disney D23 event. Now, there's going to be another sort of trailer dropping, and they usually drop on Monday Night Football. They have on the last two. So we'll be looking forward to that one. Apparently that's been sort of confirmed as being pretty dark. So hopefully they can sort of peak expectations with that. Because I've got to say, I'm sort of somewhere in between keen to see it and apathetic. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go see it on the very first session, on the very first day. I probably will end up just to be able to review it for this channel and stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, let's sound off if you're keen, or if you couldn't care less. You watch a copy of it somehow. So there's been this talk about whether Hayden Christensen will be in it. Hayden Christensen will be in it. He was pulled from a Salt Lake City convention in Salt Lake City, Utah, where he and Ian McDiarmid were supposed to guest, but they cancelled at the last minute. So we're not sure. Disney hasn't confirmed it yet, but we're not sure if he was pulled because they didn't want McDiarmid sort of talking too much about what's going on in the with Emperor Palpatine's return in the Rise of Skywalker, or they just didn't want people to sort of confirm that Hayden Christensen will be coming back as a Force Ghost. Like, I've heard all sorts of weird stuff on Reddit and Twitter that all the Skywalkers will sort of rise, like Hayden Christensen, Leia, Luke, and all like sort of have a battle royale against Emperor Palpatine, which would be one of the weirdest stuff. They seem to be retconning a lot of stuff that was set up by Rian Johnson. And that's a strange thing. He's come out and he's talked about how it's a long process to get his new movies up and going. I'm still unsure whether they will get going. I sort of think they're hesitant to give him a whole 3 series. Because, to be honest, I don't think the majority of Star Wars fans will go and watch a series by Rian Johnson. I just think they already know what to expect from him with The Last Jedi, the most divisive film in Star Wars history. And they sort of don't want to see that, they don't want to see that sort of politics-driven Star Wars series, I think it's going to be strange to see how the Rise of Skywalker does, and then everything off that will be based on how that moves forward. I mean, even the other day, The Mandalorian was said to have a few political messages in it, which is just leave the political messages out of Star Wars. Just give us some good characters we can enjoy. You haven't really done that over the last saga. I mean, we didn't really get to see Luke. We didn't really get to see Leia. We've had to follow sort of Daisy Ridley's Rey, I mean, which hasn't been too bad, but they could have done it way better. Finn was sort of almost lost in the mix, and Poe was sort of turned into this like whiny, sort of almost reduced to a whinger in the Last Jedi, and comic relief. And it's just weird to see them go from one movie to the other, and now to this movie. They clearly didn't. J.J. Abrams has said that he didn't think he'd be back to do Star Wars again. So he clearly wasn't going to do this in the first place, the last Rise of Skywalker movie. So who knows what they had in mind. I don't think they had a clear plan. And I'm hoping this movie sort of makes some kind of sense of The Last Jedi. But I think they've had to go and sort of write backwards instead of writing forwards. And that'll cost them. That'll cost them in the long run. And I don't think they're going to make as much as they think they're going to make. As it says, the Force Awakens generated $2 billion worldwide. The Last Jedi, like, yeah, we did have commercial success, but it's a Star Wars film. And at that stage, we were still excited for Star Wars. It's as I said, it's weird to think that we are more excited for a Star Wars TV series that comes out in a month than a Star Wars movie. And I stand by my claims that these are the most expensive fan films ever made. You know, sometimes they don't feel like Star Wars. They feel like a almost B, C grade movie that's trying to copy Star Wars, especially with like the Canobite scene and, well, I could name a few, but you know, until you get those major characters up on screen, it doesn't feel Star Wars. And sort of like we're all pretty annoyed at how Admiral Akbar was killed off and stuff like that. There's just some things that don't sit well with us out of this trilogy, and I don't think it will be remembered fondly in 20 years as the sort of prequel trilogy is, because that was still George Lucas at the helm. Yes, he wrote backwards, but he did have an overarching theme and sort of like married them all together with the original trilogy. This feels completely disjointed, completely separate, and sort of like feels like when you visit friends and family overseas after, you know, 10 or 15 years and everything's changed, everything's different. So to call it Star Wars in its sort of original form and stuff like that is hard to do. I mean, Luke Skywalker walking in on Crate and sort of winking at C-3PO just as well didn't sit well, you know. Like it's just been weird from the get-go, this whole trilogy, and they've got a lot to do in the Rise of Skywalker to make up for the last two films. I mean, I didn't enjoy The Force Awakens when it first came out. I sort of thought it was a cheap nostalgia nod, and yeah, it was a rip-off of New Hope, and it sits probably very low in my favourite Star Wars films, and you know, Last Jedi obviously sits last, being The Last Jedi. I don't think there's room for political satire in movies like this, as well as the MCU. I think it sort of dates these movies very badly when you sort of have to look back and go, like in 20 years' time, when those sort of TV shows are made, oh, what was going on in that time? Okay, yes, Trump was president, so they're making a political comment on the social fabric of what was going on in the world that time. That doesn't sit well. What you really got to do is just write for the characters, write for the entire series, have a standalone movie, and that's what will be good. If you can do that, and if J.J. Abrams can unjumble this mess that Disney and Rian Johnson have left him, then he'll be an absolute genius, and we'll all look back at him fondly. But it's just from the Force Awakens to the Last Jedi, it does not look good. And with all these rumors circulating, it's looking even worse. It's looking even more convoluted and messy. And you know, we count down the 99 days. Like, sure, we'll rock up and pay our tickets and we'll go see it, but will we go see it again? You know, will we go that second or third time like we did with sort of Infinity Wars and Endgame? And I'm sort of thinking we won't. I'm sort of thinking it'll be a one and done, you know, and there'll be sort of fan disappointment, and everything will be, after that, everything will be sort of released on the Disney streaming service. And it's just, as I said, it's weird to think that we're more looking forward to a Star Wars TV show than a Star Wars movie. So, I mean, sound off in the comments section what you think. Subscribe to the channel and give me a share. I'm new to building up those subs, but yeah, more content coming as we count down the 99 days and see what we can find out and see what's going to happen. But yeah, it's not looking good.